seat taken?
Nobody's in the seat that I ain't taking from.
So this is, Sabacc?
Sabacc.
Welcome back to Sabacc the Block. This is another episode of Bad Batch Friday. I am here with another guest. This time I am welcoming Mr. Brandon Hanna. What's up, Brandon?
Hey, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm super excited to talk about the Bad Batch, or the Rad Batch, as I like to call them sometimes. But it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I love all the Bad Batch puns, or I love Bad Batches, and it's a effing problem. Shout out to 2 Chainz. Shout out to all the Bad Batches out there. Either way, we're gonna get into all that, but first things first, man. Let's do this up top, RB3, just because you're my boy and I love you, RB3. But I always forget to do this. Let's do a subscribe to this channel type thing. So if you haven't done so already, if you can subscribe. And Brandon, where can everyone find you? Let's just do it up top.
Awesome. Yeah. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon Hanna 07. And I also have a YouTube channel if you want to go over, check that out. I talk about science and movies sometimes, youtube.com/Brandon Hanna.
Awesome.
Also, people, if you would like to be a part of the premiere of Timestamp, that is happening next week at this time, next Friday at 7. The premiere of Timestamp is officially happening. You are invited. As a First Cut fan, you are invited. The way you can get the link, the private invite link to see Timestamp, is by subscribing to our Patreon at any tier. It can be the $5 tier, the $10 tier, whatever tier you want to join at. You will have access to watch Timestamp. So be sure to check it out. It's going to be super exciting, coming this Friday. What?
There we go, guys. Now let's get to the Bad Batch. Now, Brandon, I know you're a Star Wars fan, but I kind of want to hear your thoughts, first of all, on the Bad Batch in general. Let's start with the season so far. I know we've only had 5 episodes, so it's a bit of a small sample. But just like I mentioned last week, I kind of feel like it's already dying down, even though it technically just got started. At least that's how I feel. But what are your thoughts on the season so far, man?
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed the premiere. It's it could be a little tiring maybe to see Order 66 from a different perspective again, but I thought it worked so well. And I think it is always super interesting to see different characters' perspectives on that moment in Star Wars history. And we got to see a little bit of Kanan for a moment there, and it kind of retconned the comics a bit, but that's a whole nother topic for another day. Overall, really, really enjoyed the premiere and how it set things up. And the last 4 episodes I've enjoyed. It's been a fun ride. You could talk about, maybe we'll talk about later, what could potentially be a filler episode and what might not be, but I'm really enjoying the show so far. I'm excited to see where it ends up. And it's really exciting and interesting, I think, overall, that we're getting to see the formation of the Empire and that transition from the Republic into the Empire. It wasn't just something that happened overnight. It was a process that we're getting a little bit of a glimpse into, and I think that's particularly fascinating.
Yeah, what do you think about my thoughts and kind of what I said before, as far as do you feel like this is already not as, there's not as many people as engaged as there was in other previous Disney Plus shows? Do you agree with that? And why do you feel that is?
Yeah, I don't know. There's the whole animated aspect, right? There's some people who, are fans of The Mandalorian, but they don't necessarily want to watch something that's animated. Although I do remember a high level of excitement for the return of the final seasons of the Clone Wars last year. And this is almost like a sequel in a lot of ways, definitely, at least spiritually, to the Clone Wars. But I could definitely see maybe there were people that weren't too attached to the Bad Batch as characters. Maybe they didn't quite enjoy their episodes and their arc during the Clone Wars series. But I think once you watch that premiere episode, that hour-long episode that they dropped. I think that's what hooked me right away, and I'm really happy that I watched that, because if I didn't give it a chance, I probably wouldn't be watching it at this point. But I thought they did such a good job with that first episode of hooking me that I was on board. And so that might be it. Maybe it's just a little bit of live action versus animated. Some people just can't seem to get excited about an animated show. And then maybe there are those people who were fans of the Clone Wars, but don't necessarily gravitate towards the characters of the Bad Batch. So it's hard to say, but those would kind of be my guesses.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably a combination of the two, right? Where it's partly you're losing the fans who don't really care for animation, and then you're also losing the fans who don't really care about the Bad Batch. I definitely remember, I mentioned it last week when they announced the Bad Batch, and everyone was like, oh, cool, yeah, sure. Because it's definitely like a 4-episode arc in the season 7 of Clone Wars that everyone kind of forgot about by the time we got to Ahsoka and Maul. So I feel like that's kind of everyone's reaction to it for sure. Yeah, man, it's interesting, right? Because I believe we're getting 16 episodes in the season. Is that correct? I don't know if you can back me up on that.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number myself. So
okay, I think it's 16. And I kind of want to bring up this question now, as far as, do you feel like that's the right length to tell the story? And if so, do you feel like if there's more episodes, it could be more fun side quest episodes that could be inside the Star Wars universe, kind of like what we had last night? Or would you prefer maybe like a 10-episode arc, which is like a very narrow focused arc about like one Camino, storyline, and that's kind of it?
Yeah, I think in general with a lot of these shows like The Mandalorian, and we've also seen with other Disney Plus shows, particularly like WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we're used to like roughly 10 episodes, maybe 8 or 9, and it's one story arc with really no filler episodes in between. At least I feel like that's like the general consensus, the general feeling. Having 16 episodes, it could leave fans to speculate in this era where we're used to 8, 9, 10 episodes, like, oh, there's definitely going to be some filler episodes in there, or, like, oh, do we need to kind of tell this broader story where we go on these little side quests? For me personally, I love the narrow focus, but at the same time, I don't mind a fun side adventure that allows us to further explore the Star Wars galaxy, go on different planets that we haven't seen before, or, planets that like had a name drop in the movies like Ord Mantell, and then, we get to explore it in a series like The Bad Batch and so forth. So for me, I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm going to enjoy it either way. If I was maybe a producer working on this show, I would be more inclined to go the more narrow focus route, but that would be like my creative decision. But at the end of the day, I'm not opposed to like letting the show breathe a little bit, having episodes where maybe one particular episode doesn't directly serve the main plot, but it gives us more time with the characters, more time in the Star Wars universe. And that's a lot of fun all on its own.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I do feel like a lot of people like those side quest episodes. I mean, if you're a fan of Clone Wars at all, a lot of episodes were like those kind of side quest type of episodes that I think a lot of people enjoyed. But it's interesting now because now you don't have Anakin, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You don't have these classic characters that people kind of grew up on. You have like Wrecker and Echo and Tick, and now Omega, which leads us to our new segment of Bad Batch Fridays and Sabacc the Block, Omega Watch. So in Omega Watch, I'm curious to hear every guest's thoughts on the character of Omega and where they were when Omega was first introduced versus where they are now. So Brandon, what are your thoughts on Omega, and what were your thoughts coming in?
Yeah. So I enjoy the character of Omega. I know there's a lot of mystery surrounding her. There's, people immediately were like, oh, she's like a Palpatine clone. Like, look at the way her hair's slicked back and her hand gesture, like overly reading into some of the promotional like artwork. I don't know. She's definitely obviously a type of clone that the Kaminoans are very invested in as far as securing their future with their military contract with the Empire, where they think there's a lot of promise, and kind of also an extension of the Bad Batch themselves along that same, I guess, like program within the cloning process, if you will. But I don't know. I'm enjoying the character. It's really great to kind of have a character in the show that is viewing the events on screens like through a child's eyes, because we all fell in love with Star Wars while we were children. A lot of us, some of us, discovered it as adults and fell in love with it then, but that's great. But I know me personally, I was like, a 7-year-old kid, like falling in love with Star Wars, and to have a character where I get to, as a young child, and I get to see the events of the show unfold through their eyes. It's kind of refreshing. It kind of takes me back to what I love about Star Wars. So from that perspective, I think it's really great. But as far as the mystery behind the character, I don't really know what direction they're going with there yet. Is this eventually going to be a long tie into the Rise of Skywalker, or is it going to be something all on its own? We'll wait and see, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern people had with Omega was the fact that she was kind of like the annoying kid character who gets into trouble and is supposed to lead all the crew into trouble. How do you feel about that? And do you feel like that's probably the case?
I feel like sometimes at first you're like, and I think even, a couple episodes ago, there was like a couple lines of dialogue where like, hey, kids always get into trouble. That's what kids do. And so there's always that initial thinking where like, there's Omega doing something stupid that's going to get everybody in trouble. But then ultimately Omega ends up being the one that saves them when they're in a critical situation that they can't get out of on their own. So I think Omega as a character she's very well holding her own. She's like immediately, in a lot of situations, she can see things that the rest of the team can't. Very, very intelligent character. And so I don't think that she kind of falls into that stereotype. Initially, you might think that, but then she does so much on her own as a character to support the rest of the crew and really earn her spot amongst them. I think it's hard to argue that she's only there to like, get them in trouble and kind of be like almost this like side gag. I feel like the character is much more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely, it took like a good 2 episodes for Omega to grow on me, but she definitely did. And I definitely feel like it's it's like low-key like a parent, show, where, every week they learn something about being a parent, where they're like, like this week, let's get into this episode, which is called Rampage. The episode starts out with Omega basically getting a comm device, and then getting a speech on what this comm device actually represents. And I was like, wait a minute, this is the cell phone episode where, the young adult teenage kid gets a cell phone. And it's like, the cell phone's not a toy. You call this when if you're in trouble, you'll call me. And I was like, this is kind of like a sitcom kind of vibe where the parents have to remind the kid that the use of a phone is to call them when they're in trouble, and the responsibility to have a phone and what comes with that. But obviously after that, we got into Ord Mantell, which obviously, again, a lot of people appreciate those nods. I'm one of those people who appreciate the nods from obviously Empire Strikes Back when Han Solo mentions that, and obviously in other references as well. But once we get there, we meet up with Sid, which is the Trandoshan character, who offers intel for the rest of the team, which the intel is who is Fennec Shand, which I think is hysterical, because at the end of the episode, there's like, it's Fennec Shand, have a good night. And I was like, that's all that for this. But at the end of the day, they're hunting for a Rancor whose name is Muchi, who is a kid Rancor that has to be taken in to Bib Fortuna. This is all spoilers, guys. What'd you think of this episode, man?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. It was cool to see, I think, Matthew Wood back as Bib Fortuna. Where
I heard it.
He portrayed him at the end of that little Book of Boba Fett tease at the end of
Phantom Menace
season 2. Yeah, and Phantom Menace. And so, that was really cool. It was interesting to see like a young Rancor and like it's like, yo, you know what? I get why someone might be able to love a Rancor now. I get it. You know, there's definitely, it was cool to see the Rancor and Wrecker kind of have their bond at the end of the episode there. And I don't know, it was a fun side adventure that, you know, ultimately didn't do too much to serve the main plot because, like you said, they were performing this mission to get the Rancor back, just to get information on the bounty hunter that is coming after Omega. So, but it was, at the end of the day, it was a fun episode. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing Ord Mantell. I enjoyed seeing Bib Fortuna again, the young Rancor. You know, it immediately takes me back to Return of the Jedi. So, ultimately, it was a fun episode. I don't really have any, you know, like complaints, you know, because I know there's going to be more episodes left in the season that are going to answer the questions that I, you know, want answered. They're going to explore some of the things I want to explore. I don't mind taking this week to just further enjoy the characters, further explore the Star Wars universe, and yeah, as far as the Fennec Shand reveal, I mean, we all knew it was Fennec. Anyone watching knows that it's Fennec, especially if you watch The Mandalorian season 2 and all that. So I wasn't anticipating a huge reveal at the end of the episode. I pretty much figured that's where they were going with it.
Which kind of leads me to my next question. The fact that we did know it was Fennec Shand. So in an audience's perspective, was this a filler episode?
I think it could be argued that it was like a filler episode because like we mentioned, it is this side quest that doesn't really serve the main plot. It was just like it was almost like a video game like mission where it's like you got to go complete this mission to earn this trophy to get this information so that you can move on with the main storyline. But I'm not hating it.
Yeah, I liked it too, and I definitely think this is what comes with animated shows, regardless of what animated show it is that there's always going to be these kind of episodes, side quest episodes, that kind of make you just hang out with the crew and give you different moments with the crew, whether it is like a Wrecker or an Echo or an Omega. It's essentially giving you more character moments with them. And in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really lead to a bigger picture, which kind of leads me to my next point. What do you feel like this is going, especially whether we're getting one season or more seasons? I don't know if we have confirmation on that, but do you feel like this episode arc is going to be how the Bad Batch travels from this destination to this destination? Is it going to lead to a bigger giant picture as far as like Omega being some special Palpatine clone or just some special clone in general? What do you feel like the story's going? And do you feel like it's maybe more than a one season thing?
Yeah, I can definitely see it being more than a one season arc. You know, I don't really know where it's going. I feel like Omega is going to play a big role in the early, you know, formation time period of the Empire and what they're trying to do. And I think the Bad Batch is going to play a crucial role in some way in the overall bigger story of what we know as like, you know, the main Skywalker saga. I feel like they're going to have some sort of impact, you know, in a similar way where Rex kind of makes his impact, you know, helping out, you know, the characters that we know and love from the Clone Wars and Rebels along the way. It might be a similar thing as to that, where we don't directly see what they've done when we watch the movies, but you know, they played a role that when you look at the overall big picture, you can kind of appreciate the, you know, what they've done in the battle against the Empire sort of thing. And I think that's really exciting to realize, like, oh, that's really cool. Like that these clones play this role in turning against the Empire that was once the Republic that they were once so loyal to. I think there's a really interesting dynamic there. And as far as this episode to go back to the episode itself, you know, they do give us like a little bit, like it is kind of like a filler episode, but at the same time, we see like Omega prove herself more as a member of the team, where immediately, I think the character's name is Sid. I mean, she's like, hey, you're Sid, aren't you? Like knew immediately and helped the team and helped rescue the team when they were all captured, you know, by these like slave traders. And we got to see like more teases that something's going on with Wrecker. He has like a headache and it could be something wrong, I'm thinking, with his inhibitor chip. So like they're letting that one kind of like sink in and giving that one a moment. It's 2 episodes in a row where he's like, oh, I got this headache. I probably just bumped my head. when we crash landed, but there's definitely going to be something more. And I'm thinking like, is it an inhibitor chip thing? What's going on? So it's kind of just giving things a little bit more room to breathe. But overall, I don't know. I'm not convinced that Omega is like a Palpatine clone and that's where we're going. You know, she has that like Tamira Morrison New Zealand accent down pretty well. So I'm like, does she have that just from hanging out with clones 24/7? Or is there like another genetic reason why that is? I don't know. But
that was my first question when I first saw the first episode. I was like, did they just change the gender to and they just made a different, a different Kiwi? But I don't know. I really don't know how that works. I definitely don't think it's Palpatine connected, if I'm being honest. I don't feel like that would make sense, even in the grand scheme of things when it comes to Rise of Skywalker, considering that, it kind of defeats the purpose of the whole movie. But also, I kind of want to question the idea of the Bad Batch as a show. Let's talk like mega big picture, executive of Disney's big picture. Do you feel like this experiment so far has been working as far as we're going to make an animated show spin-off of the Clone Wars where it's probably the animation wise is going to cost us a lot of money, but we could also save money on hiring one actor to play all the roles. But do you feel like this has worked so far? And do you feel like maybe there's a secret pocket of like, maybe we're not necessarily the people who are going to get this on Twitter and stuff. And maybe there's so many kids all around the world who are watching this show that we don't even know of and that we're kind of just blind to. Because we got used to, Mandalorian at midnight, everyone watches it at the same time and everyone talks about it and tweets some super vague tweet about like, wow, that was crazy. Or WandaVision being like, I can't believe they did that. And you kind of tweet out your super vague reaction on Twitter. Whereas in the Bad Batch, I said last week, I was like, I was going to tweet like Fennec Shan. And I was like, no one cares. I didn't see a single tweet. So I was like, all right, no one's watching this right now. Do you feel like this has worked out, or maybe it's worked out in a way that maybe we're not conscious of because it's mainly aimed towards kids?
Yeah, I feel like you're right. It is a show that's more directed at kids. I mean, I watch it, I enjoy it. There's definitely things for adults to enjoy and appreciate. Like you said, like there's lessons in there about parenting, so it's about the adults learning just as much as it is about the kids learning. So I think it's a show for everyone of all ages. But as far as people appreciating it and like getting hyped up about it, I think it is more a kids show in that manner. When we had season 7 of the Clone Wars, I heard a lot from, my friends who love Star Wars, like how hyped up they were. We get the characters that we love from the movies. We get more of like Darth Maul, and we get Ahsoka being incredible. And of course, leading into the events of Revenge of the Sith, which, a lot of adults now were kids when that movie came out, when the prequels came out. So there's like still that familiarity and that like nostalgic tie to the Clone Wars. But now the Bad Batch now being a spinoff of something that kind of ties into the movies that we love, not like almost like a spinoff of a spinoff in a way. And I think it kind of loses touch with maybe some of the adult audience, and you're definitely not going to see a lot of hype on Twitter, I think, regarding a show like this. And like we talked about, because it's animated and it's a show that's about characters that spun off from another animated show. But I enjoy the show. I think it's got something for everybody, but it's probably, I would imagine kids have to be out enjoying this. I feel like if I was watching this show as a kid, I would be really invested in these characters. As someone who recently studied Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the Schmodown, I see a lot of Ninja Turtles in these characters sometimes, because they all got their own little particular skill and weapon set. And you got, I think, like Echo. He's very obviously the Donatello of the group. That's like dead on for me, but I really enjoy that aspect of it, and I think kids probably gravitate towards that as well.
But do you feel like if you were an executive right now at Disney, or if you were running some sort of department in Lucasfilm, do you say, let's keep making more seasons of The Bad Batch? Or do you say, you know what, let's make an original animated show? Because I really do feel like an interesting point to bring up is the fact that if you really think about it, kind of a lot of the new shows that Disney announced or Lucasfilm announced, Ahsoka, Rangers of the New Republic, all seem to be saying, hey, we're going to feature characters from the animated show that you guys love. Like, let's say maybe a Hera shows up in a Ranger show. And obviously we have the Ahsoka show, and we know that Ezra is probably going to eventually show up. And we know that, probably more characters from Rebel are going to show up. So it's interesting how now the animated characters are showing up in the live action spinoffs. Do you make an original show in animated form? Do you keep the Bad Batch going? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it could be a tough call, right? Because on one hand, you're like, okay, maybe this show isn't performing as well as we wanted it to. We want a show that people are really going to get hyped up about. There's going to be a lot of social media buzz. Like, do they maybe try to do something more original with a different animated show if that's the route that they want to go? Or maybe try to latch onto another really popular character. Maybe you want to do an animated show that's set, in between episodes 6 and 7, and maybe you follow Poe Dameron on his way, climbing up the ranks through the Resistance, or maybe you want to try to gravitate towards another character. So I see that on one hand, but on the other hand, you look at that 2008 Clone Wars movie that people tend to not really love. That was when we were first introduced to the character of Ahsoka, and people despised her as much as they despised Jar Jar Binks at the time, and made those comparisons. And now, Dave Filoni and George Lucas and their team and everybody over at Lucasfilm, now they put in the time and they made 7 seasons of Clone Wars, and they brought the character of Ahsoka over to Rebels, and they put in the time, and now Ahsoka is appearing in The Mandalorian. Now she's getting her own live action show, and she's a beloved character in the fan community. So do you maybe take that gamble with the Bad Batch? Do they maybe have a plan where they go, let's do 2-3 seasons of the Bad Batch, and we feel like at the end of season 3, people are really going to love these characters the same way that we do and we envision them. And then maybe we can do a live action thing where it's like, hey, like, here's Hunter and a cameo for an episode of Mandalorian or something. He shows up later on, or what have you. I don't know. So to me, it can go either way. I can see both sides of the argument.
It's also an interesting point based off certain shows that seem to tease at potential new characters or characters that can be spin-offs, considering you mentioned between 6 and 7. We know obviously Mandalorian is between 6 and 7, which is also what they want to do with characters from the Mandalorian, considering they want to do Rangers of the New Republic. We still don't know what the hell that's going to be, especially considering, the Carano situation. We have no idea if that was her show and that's kind of what it was, or they could pretend it wasn't. Like, oh, that's not the case at all. Like, it doesn't matter because they can kind of control the narrative there. But it kind of presents a question as far as like, it's interesting what they might choose to make animated in the future, because I really do feel like their animated department is something they have like a big hold on and they're like very confident in. So I don't think they're going to let that go, especially after Clone Wars and Rebels. Even Resistance is pretty popular. That's the name of the show, right? Resistance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But even that show was pretty popular, even though I didn't really watch too many episodes of it. But I do feel like their animation department is something that they're very confident in. So I'm curious. I'm definitely curious, because I'm not sure necessarily right now if everyone loves it as much as I do, if everyone cares about it as much as I do, or if it even matters. Because again, there could be millions of kids with Wrecker shirts on right now.
And we never know.
Exactly. I want to address a super chat from Ken saying, just swinging through to say, Cheers, First Cut team, hashtag Team Racker. Thank you, Ken. We appreciate that. Also, shout out to Sabrina and RB3 in the chat saying that they want to watch the show eventually. I love it. We got the whole crew. But yeah, I just really am fascinated by this show because I really do feel like it's kind of an experiment to test where the audience is right now when it comes to these kind of characters and stories. Because honestly, man, if you told me, oh, we have another? What's
Just swinging through. But cheers, First Cut team. Hashtag Team Wrecker.
Here you go. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate
Sorry,
that.
I came in a little late.
Yeah, all good. All good. We made it work. Because my thing is like, if they told me, if I'm being real, man, if they gave me like, RB3, back me up on this. If they said, we're giving you a Mace prequel, animated, 16 episodes, the story of Mace Windu or some shit like that, would we not be down for that? Because I'd be down for that. And I don't know if that's like a better alternative to like post Order 66 or something. I don't know.
I mean, I'd be down for it. I'd be down for 10 episodes or 12 episodes. I don't know about 16. 16 is a lot, especially these days.
Also, I still feel like I know Samuel L. Jackson wants to come back and he'll probably be like 89 years old by the time they bring him back, considering what they're doing with Harrison Ford. But I still feel like they could do that in like a spin-off film. Hire like, I don't know, RB3, Michael B. Jordan.
Hey, whoa. Come on now.
RB3's favorite actor. Garbage. But you know what I mean. Hire someone like that. Hire the guy from Lovecraft Country.
Oh yeah,
Boom.
Jonathan Majors.
Yeah.
There's another broad dude popping off right now too. I'm trying to think. What's his name? I gotta think. Or put Amari Hardwick in there. He's popping off. Army of the Dead. Get Amari Hardwick in there.
Yeah, or even like a young guy. I mean, maybe like a younger actor, like a 20-year-old or 22-year-old or something.
I want them to do someone British, so that'll really make Samuel Jackson mad. Because I don't know if you heard his thoughts on Black British people, but not.
Hell yeah,
yeah,
hell yeah! Make it a Black British actor, kicking ass as Mace Windu. I don't know. What do you think, Brandon? As far as like maybe another spin-off show or spin-off movie.
Yeah, Mace Windu stuff is interesting. I know a lot of people speculating he survived episode 3. I know there was like that kind of really funny bit. I remember it was like Star Wars Celebration, like I think it was like 2017, where like Samuel L. Jackson came on screen and he's like, now Kathy, it's my understanding that Jedi can fall really far distances and still be alive. And so that was like, really fun to see. I don't know, that they would really have to make me buy into something like they would really have to sell me on that. But with the Clone Wars series, we've explored a lot in the 3 years, I think, between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. We've explored now a good amount between what's going on in the Bad Batch and Rebels, the 19 or so years between episodes 3 and 4. But there's like 30 years between episodes 6 and 7 that have barely been explored, I think, outside of like Resistance. And now, of course, Mandalorian, and we're like getting Ahsoka and Rangers of the Republic and all that. And the Acolyte comes out. When does that go? Before? That's a before.
It's before.
Yeah. So, but we're getting a lot of stuff from all over the place. I think what could do really well animated is a Ben Solo centric story where we kind of get, some of the stuff that's been teased in the comics of like Snoke turning him to the dark side. I don't know.
Man, if we get that's a dope idea. I can't lie. But then again, I could also counter you and I could say, bro, if they get like the Lil Ben Solo, and by Lil I mean Lil, Lil Ben Solo Chronicles or some crap, but make it like live action and get like, I don't know, a teenage heartthrob or some crap to play like an emo Ben Solo. Get one of the Stranger Things kids and have like 13-year-olds just go nuts. I could also pitch that and probably get a lot of money. Because I feel like that's an untapped little thing, right? Where you could say, what about Ben Solo between 16 and 18, or 16 or 18 or to 25 or something before, significantly before Force Awakens, which I think he's 29 in that movie, in the first movie. That's a weird fact that I know, but yeah.
They can ask that in the Schmodown now.
That's kind of why I know it. But it's one of those things where you can kind of pretend and say, this is him between 17 years old, 16 years old, like teenage emo Solo, hanging out with like Uncle Chewie. You know what I mean? Like if I could pitch that, I would kind of want to see that in live action. But then again, I don't know if that would work out. So
when you think about it, the beginning of the relationship between Lucasfilm and Disney actually began with the Young Indiana Jones series airing on ABC back in 1992. So, and that was also the first time they ever made like a fully digital character for the screen during the Young Indiana Jones. So there you go.
It looks good, man. It still holds up. Have you seen that, by the way?
No, I haven't seen that.
It does not hold up.
It doesn't look
I'm
good,
joking.
No, but it's impressive. I mean, it's
impressive, but it was
before Terminator 2, though. It was before Terminator 2, so you got to think about that. This was fully digital character before Terminator 2. That's dope.
I've seen it a few times, and it's definitely not holding up for sure. But I feel like there's a lot of untapped potential that they could possibly do. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely think it's something Ben Solo centric, or something just in that time period. They could explore the origins of the First Order and how Snoke comes into power, and like how Palpatine's kind of pulling some strings behind the scenes to get Snoke to lead the First Order while also corrupting Ben Solo. I don't know. There's some really interesting stuff to see there that we didn't get to see happen, just because of the way the story ended up being told. I think could be really interesting. And then you got, all other politics going on with Leia and the New Republic. And I know politics in Star Wars can sometimes be a sour note, with the blockage of trade routes and everything. People not liking that about, the Phantom Menace. But Star Wars politics, when done right, can be really cool.
Yeah, I feel like Clone Wars did it right. Clone Wars did a really good job of it. I think they did a good job.
And I know some of the, I think like Claudia Gray novels too, really explored that really, really well.
That's a really good point too.
I was going to say, going real quick, going back to the Mace Windu thing and how they can maybe supposedly survive like Long Falls. If we know anything from the new Lucasfilm regime, at least from Rise of Skywalker, they are not opposed to making up new mythology on the realm. So,
but also surviving Long Falls, right? Because Ben uses the Force to survive that literally long fall. I remember when go ahead.
Oh no, sorry, no, I don't mean to cut you off, but like I think there's like a tie-in to the comics with that, where like Snoke trains him to like use the Force to stop himself from like hitting the ground.
I remember my brother asked me in the movie what I was going to say in the movie theater. He's like, "How did you survive?" I'm like, "Bro, the Force, man." He's like, "You just came back, use the Force to survive the fall. It totally makes sense." To me, it made sense at least. But yeah, I feel like, if I'm being honest with the Samuel L. Jackson thing, we all know he just wants that Lucasfilm paycheck.
He wants that purple lightsaber, man. Give him the purple lightsaber back. He deserves it.
I'm good. I don't want to see like an 85-year-old Samuel L. Jackson come back for a Mace Windu movie. I'm sorry, man. I don't want to see an old man Indiana Jones either. I'm good. I think we're past it. I think he saw what Harrison Ford made for Force Awakens. He looked it up and he was like, "Yo, I gotta get me in on this, bro," because it's a lot of money. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I'm very good at suspending my disbelief. Like you said, I can just go be like, "Yeah, the Force, whatever." That answers it. I'm good. But at the same time, I'm kind of like a stickler for some stuff, So like, if they want to bring Mace Windu back, that's fine, as long as he's dead by Return of the Jedi, because I take it very much to heart when Yoda says, "When gone I am, the last of the Jedi you will be," which is why in Mandalorian I was like, it's got to be Luke showing up, otherwise it goes against what Yoda said.
Yeah, and low-key, I still feel like the way to go with Mace, again, Mace is one of a lot of people's favorite characters, is prequel. Like, just make it a prequel. Again, Michael B. Jordan.
Nah, just Samuel Jackson.
Creed
de-age
himself.
him. Nah, just de-age him. De-age Samuel. They already did it with Captain
Oh
Marvel.
no, just bring in a new actor, bro. Make it a British actor.
Gotta be someone who looks good bald. I don't know if I can visualize a Mace Windu with hair. I don't think I can do it.
No, they can't.
I would love to see that. Thank you, Brandon, once again for joining us, man. Where can everyone find you again?
Yeah, sure. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at BrandonHanna07. And I also have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Brandon Hanna, where I talk about science and movies and talk about science in a weekly news show. So if you want to watch that, head over to there and join me. It's a lot of fun. And thank you so much for having me on the show today, Andres and RB3. It was a lot of fun talking Star Wars with you both.
Thank you, man, for joining us. We really do appreciate that. I just want to give a shout out to Jesse in the comment section as well. He says, Ace and Brandon, two of my favorite Schmodown competitors that I have yet to meet. It'd be great to meet Hannah in the ring and IG. Let's go.
All right, let's go. 20 questions right now.
You can find me on Twitter at Squad Leader Race. RB3, where can everyone find you, man?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Director RB3, and you can find me next Friday, at 7 o'clock, the premiere of Timestamp. Be there or be square. If you want to watch this amazing film, you can RSVP by becoming a First Cut Patreon. That's patreon.com/First Cut Studios. Any tier, $5 tier, $10 tier, $25 tier, $50 tier, whatever tier you want to get in at if you're not already there. And plus, if you're an Indiegogo supporter, you already got your invite. And if I like you already got your invite too. So, but if I don't like you, or if you're not an Indiegogo supporter, or if you're not a Patreon, do become a Patreon now and get ready and get geared up for Timestamp. Let's go.
RB3 is like that that MC in Atlanta, the Atlanta strip club episode. You don't remember that, bro? Where he's like, "Come on, bro. Come on, man. You got to jump in on this. Come on. She's giving her heart out right now. You gotta pay more than that."
Yeah, you gotta give a little extra dollars, man. Give a few more dollars. $5 plus donations will be read out loud in the show, even though it's at the end. Let's go.
Obviously, guys, subscribe to First Cut if you haven't done so already. For the First Cut crew, we're peacing out. Peace.
The seat taken.
Nobody's in the seat that I ain't taking, friend.
So this is Sabacc.
Sabacc.